Hello and welcome to another week of the Unshackled. We have one special guest here making his Unshackled debut tonight, Richard Wolstencroft from the report from Tiger Mountain and the Melbourne Underground Film Festival. How are you?
Very good, Tim. It's a great honour to be here, and I look forward to talking about some interesting mischief on tonight's show.
And we have another special guest. I call him a special guest because he's returning from somewhat of a hiatus, James Fox Higgins of The Rational Rise. How are you?
Good to be back. I'm warm and cozy.
Now, where have you been? You look like you've been in hibernation.
Yeah, you could call it that. I don't leave my house a great deal, which is, one of the luxuries of my lifestyle. But I've been focused on family life for the last couple of weeks and also working on my third novel and getting back in the groove there, taking a little breather. But I'll be back on The Rational Rise tomorrow night with a Foxy Friday show scheduled. And we'll be, kicking things back off. And it's good to be back here on the Unshackled in the meantime.
And Richard, you've got the Melbourne Underground Film Festival starting again soon.
Indeed. The call for entries are now on. If you go to muff.com.au, you can enter via Film Freeway. The entries are pouring in. It's going to be a big festival. It's our 20th year this year. We'll be doing the festival around mid to late October, so we'll be announcing the dates around the time entries close. Entries close late July. So, and then we'll have a whole flood of amazing films, but we are talking to some people from the new right and the alt-right who are going to play some work at the festival, and we've got some exclusive Australian premieres that no other festival in Australia has the guts to play, so we'll be playing those and other stuff.
Nice.
And we're going to air tonight. There's been some breaking news. There was some breaking news as we were on air last week when Twitter was in meltdown because Lyle Shelton had a selfie with the Proud Boys in Queensland, and we actually had Ben Shand, who's one of the leaders of the Proud Boys in Queensland on. He wasn't at that, but that apparently meant that Lyle was a fascist neo-Nazi.
Ridiculous. The Proud Boys.
Proud Boys of all things, they're like the most cuddly bunch of dudes.
Oh, well, Lyle didn't cuck. He didn't delete it. He did delete the original tweet because he said he was at a bows club, not a bowls club.
Fair enough. That's a typo you can't really live with, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Well, Lyle's party that he's a member of, Australian Conservatives, that is the news for tonight. Cory Bernardi has put up on the Australian Conservatives website that he is going to deregister the party given their poor performance in the federal election, and he believes that the party is no longer needed now that Malcolm Turnbull's no longer Prime Minister, and he doesn't think that Liberal Party is controlled by the left. And he gave an indication a couple of days ago that he was open to rejoining the Liberal Party, and it looks like it's all but official. So
the Spectator was right in that case.
Yes. Well,
you can see that. I think this election, everyone seemed to go centre-right with the recent Australian election. There were some losses on some of the more nationalist parties. Obviously, Hanson lost a seat, I think, maybe two. And obviously Fraser Anning lost out, so it's a shame. But I think everyone, for whatever reason, I think were definitely scared by Labor, and everyone sort of went centre-right. And obviously Cory Bernardi set himself up as a kind of, opposition party that was more conservative. And now I think as the Liberal Party itself becomes more legitimately conservative, he wonders, it's a bit like what happened with, UKIP and all that kind of stuff and Brexit and stuff, the Brexit Party that Nigel Farage set up and the Tory Party. There's like a whole movement and realignment of things on the right, which I think is really interesting.
Well, it is interesting to compare what's happened in Australia with the recent election compared to the recent EU elections. And yes, there's been a huge swing towards nationalism and national sovereignty in Europe, but not here. And we have, as you say, gone centre-right. And it's funny that Cory Bernardi says that, the Liberal Party are no longer controlled by the left. I think that's bullshit.
Well, I agree there.
I think the Liberal Party is a left party, but they're more towards the centre than Labor and Greens, obviously, by quite a long shot compared to the Greens. But, yeah, why aren't we having the nationalist swing in Australia that we're seeing in Europe?
Well, The Senate results were announced this week, and Malcolm Roberts did regain his seat for One Nation. He'll be in the Senate for 6 years. One Nation in Queensland got close to 10%. So that is, I think, still
Good news.
A positive. And of course,
So Queensland is swinging nationalist then.
Yeah, well,
which is not unexpected.
3 LNP, 1 Labor, 1 Green, and 1 Nation. So Labor were reduced to a single senator.
Labor have 1 centre.
Yes.
Wow.
Let's see if we can get that down to 0.
Yes, exactly.
And so it's still managed to trigger a lot of people that Malcolm Roberts is back and that climate change denier, and they mocked
Fiona
him
Patton was
on Q&A this week. They had that climate scientist he went to head to head with last year, and they actually mocked Malcolm Roberts in the promo. So don't worry, he's gonna come back and trigger a lot of people.
Yeah, well, I mean, Fiona Patton, who's from the Sex Party or whatever she calls herself now, she had released this hysteric. I mean, I'm on her page because, I used to know her actually, and so she's kind of an interesting person, but I don't really like her politics. But she wrote this hysteric number on Malcolm Roberts being put back in. But I think it's fine. It's just part of democracy. Get fucking used to it. And unfortunately, you're right. I don't know why we haven't had this. Larger nationalist wave. I do think that Australian politics is very much controlled. You saw the way that Fraser Anning was attacked, the way that he was marginalised, the way that he would never be allowed to essentially speak on mainstream media. Because the interview I did for him here at the site. He's really a reasonable guy, but they would not allow that on channel, particularly on ABC, but they wouldn't even allow it on Channel 9 or something.
Not even Sky News.
Well, even Sky News, exactly. So, I think there's a real control over politics, and they really want to keep it. Essentially, and I wouldn't say exactly that the Liberal Party are left-wing, but essentially they are pushing the globalist politics, the globalist agenda, and that's, to me,
that's left enough for me.
Well, it's neither right. Yeah, exactly. It's the treason, the great treason. Now, obviously, the Labor Party were much worse than the Liberals, so thank God the Liberals did win, but still it's there within the Liberal Party, even with Malcolm Turnbull gone. Now, hopefully, it will attune itself, it will awaken, it will look around the world politics, and the Liberal Party will attune itself more to a nationalist perspective. And we can expect that, I would say. And also, they've got this great win. It means they can probably win the next election, no matter what they do. Yeah. Even if they went friggin' alt-right, they'd probably win. But, so they can definitely move in a more conservative nationalist direction and get away with it. And there's some good people in the party, like Peter Dutton, and I even don't mind ScoMo to some extent, but there's an element of the globalist politics, which is this internationalist agenda, that's selling out our country, and all this bullshit.
This taste is growing, I think, amongst the people, for the globalist agenda.
Yep.
More and more people are waking up to the fact that it's been this sort of slow, cancerous growth in our culture, in our politics over 50, 60, 70 years. And it's harming us. It's harming our culture. It's harming our race. It's harming, multiple races. It's harming all the races, essentially.
I agree. I made the argument.
People are waking up to it. So I think they'll ultimately there will be a great awakening as things get worse. And I do. Yes. I'm a pessimist from the political perspective. I think things are going to get worse in politics pretty consistently until there's fairly drastic and sudden change or rebellion of some kind.
I would agree to that to some extent, definitely.
Yeah. I just want to read some of Cory's statement on there. The Australian Conservatives website, it's now blank apart from... it's done it again. This had the same problem last week with the... I've got to bring it...
Boom attack. Just in before the comments.
We mentioned the globalists, and there we go.
Yeah.
Sabotage again!
It's never us. It's the globalists messing with us.
They're excellent. They're an excellent excuse.
I think
scapegoat. Everyone needs a scapegoat.
It's the interdimensional pedophiles hacking into our system. Yeah.
Well, that's the globalist, isn't it? So,
I think
same. I repeat.
Same.
Let me see if I fix. Yeah, there we go. But it's the wrong article. So yeah. So like I said, the Australian Conservatives website has been completely shut down. Apart from this statement, I just want to read out a short bit. Hey, it says many also said I needed to deliberately court controversy to gain media attention during the election campaign. While that may have worked, it would have undermined the very premise that we offer to the Australian people, a credible and principled alternative to the political fringe. Unfortunately, steady and sensible didn't work, and it was frustrating that some single interest parties gained more votes than we did, despite having next to no electoral presence or campaign resources. However, some solace can be found that we never compromised in our principles and pursuit of political sugar hits.
It's funny that he says, they never compromised in their principles. Well, I heard from people close to Cory, who I won't name, that he, knowingly avoided topics that were too hot, topics like immigration, like Islam. He knowingly stepped carefully around those topics in a way that wasn't honest to his own personal beliefs. And
Which
so
is also why he lost and didn't get any fucking votes.
And for political reasons, because the attitude I heard, the allegation is that the attitude from Cory Bernardi was that it's too soon to talk honestly about immigration and those sorts of topics.
When is it too late?
To me, that says if he believes that they never back down on their principles, then truth is not one of their principles, and so they've got to go. They're gone.
Yep.
Yeah, what happened to the old Cory? Remember he was the one that said, same-sex marriage, it could lead to bestiality. He once said that I'm not opposed to Muslims but Islam. Like, he was the original, controversial Australian senator, but, his message seems to have been watered down over the years, and like he'd get on Sky News every week, Paul Murray, and just sort of say these sort of, pretty sort of mild conservative talking points. And as we saw in New South Wales with the Senate, people didn't vote for Sophie York. They voted for a conservative in the Liberal Party in Jim Molan. He got over 100,000 below the line votes. That wasn't enough to get him elected, but that's sort of where people, well, if I want to vote for sort of just a standard conservative, I might as well vote for one who's in the Liberal Party.
Yeah, well, I guess, it's interesting as well that there was somebody in the running who was willing to talk truthfully and, unashamedly about the issues that we're facing. That was Fraser Anning, and he lost his seat as well. So,
and you saw a real confluence.
You can see that there's these two tactics or strategies going on here, where Anning was outright honest about what's going on and lost for it, and Cory Bernardi was playing it very safe and lost for it. So, again, I'm a pessimist when it comes to this whole political machine, and I had a little bit of hope and excitement about the Anning avalanche I was praying for, but it didn't happen. And again, it comes back to that the solutions to these fairly intractable problems that we have culturally are not found in Parliament. They're not found in politics. Politics is downstream of culture, and culture is downstream of identity.
Well, going back to, like I talked about Malcolm Roberts being elected in Queensland, Pauline, she's still the Queen. I know that she's done a lot of things wrong. She's cucked on quite a few issues, but I do put that down to Mark Latham's influence. I mean, he, I think, goes...
An agent.
He goes way watering down the nationalist message in New South Wales. But, Pauline, I think, she's up in Queensland. She, speaks to the regions. Like, I think a lot of nationalists still, or, she's the best voice that we have. We're still going to vote for her candidates.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a whole raft of strong nationalists out there, and obviously there are different perspectives and different things you might agree and disagree with them. Obviously, media control and media manipulation in this country is extraordinary. Obviously, the ABC, we all know that belongs to the left, no matter how much they scream, we're not biased. It's like, I don't know what planet they're living on. I can watch Fox News and go, yes, Fox News is biased towards the right? But like, it's so obvious that the ABC is biased towards the left. I have a lot of left-wing friends from the film industry, and they can't see it. It's like every time I switch it on, multiculturalism like propaganda. Okay, go back to bed, whatever. Wake up another day, switch it on. Aboriginal dance performance. Like, every single time. It's like a game. It's like I should have a wheel next to my television. Which multicultural
and then
PC agenda will I get today?
then all the fear-mongering added in about the rise of, the neo-Nazis.
Everyone's a Nazi who's to the left, to the right of, like, I don't know, Mark Latham, not Mark Latham, sorry, I don't know.
So if you're right of Stalin now, you're a Nazi.
Penny Wong, that's right. Anyone to the right of Penny Wong is a Nazi, basically.
Well, I think that the worst thing that Mark Latham said is that he said on Twitter that there's no racism in Australia because only less than 1% of people voted for a racist party in Fraser Anning's party.
Have you heard about this bullshit to do with this Adam Goodes documentary? Like, it's doing the rounds. I think it played at the Sydney Film Festival.
Yeah, we'll get to the AFL.
Oh, we're going to get onto that. Okay, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. All right. James is not an AFL person.
Wow. I'm not really much of a sports person generally. I do have a great deal more respect for AFL than rugby, though, I've got to say.
I did find the sport the other day that I liked, that I think should definitely be taken to the Olympics, and it's from Russia. And it's basically hot women slapping each other on the arse. I think that is a real winner. That should be made an Olympic sport. Look that up. Look that up. It's like hot Russian women spanking each other on the arse, and it's not even like, it's not a porn site or anything. It's like legitimately, it's a new sport. So that's my sport. Forget football. I did like tennis because that's got a bit of hitting and balls and things and everything. But no, this is the new sport for me.
We've got a gay
There's a video
AFL update. When David Hiscox takes over from James when he has to clock off at 9.
Yeah, right. We can go a little, a few minutes over because we had a bit of a rough start there tonight. So I'm happy to do my half hour.
Yeah, it's like I mentioned last week. The trick is to just move the signal reception router just over a few centimeters.
There it is.
Magic.
It's magic. Now you sound like you're in the next room rather than Antarctica.
Well, I think we should be blessed that, here at the Unshackled Studios, where we've got an ISP that allows us to use the internet, unlike a bank that won't let Blair Cottrell bank with them anymore.
It's out of this world, isn't it?
A letter from Westpac. It was a couple of days ago. Now I'll bring it up here on the screen, where the letter said, this letter is to provide you with notice that Westpac has made the commercial decision that we will no longer be able to provide you with our banking and financial services. We have made this decision after careful consideration and with regret, in accordance with applicable account terms and conditions, which are available online. We hope you will appreciate that we are not able to provide you with any further information about our commercial imperatives.
Yeah, well, that to me just sounds like Antifa or some other left-wing activist group got to them, threatened them, harassed them and pressured them and just said, hey, we've found out Blair Cottrell's one of your customers and don't you know he's a far-right Nazi? And if you don't make a big public show of, cancelling his bank accounts, we're going to make your lives hell. But, that said, it could have been a totally internal decision because Westpac are pretty on board with the Globo Homo.
Well, yeah,
it's extraordinary. I mean, we really are living behind a kind of new Iron Curtain in the West. You see people. This guy over in New Zealand got sentenced to jail for like sharing the video from New Zealand. It's ridiculous. People in the UK are being the police are coming knocking and. For I don't know, just making some slightly off color non-PC comment on Facebook. We really are living in a kind of the car park of 1984.
Let's make all our fiction again, please.
Exactly. I know. There's this great meme I was sharing on Facebook that has it's like brave. It's got like a Venn diagram, 3 circles. It's like 1984, Brave New World, and I think what's the other one? I don't know. Fahrenheit 451. Yeah. And so you are here in the middle.
We're in the age of censorship, and diversity was a myth all along.
Yes, it was always about getting rid of us, getting rid of Europeans, at least making us a minority within our own countries. Obviously, when multiculturalism first began, when it was only 5 or 10% of the population, it didn't seem so bad, you see, because it's, again, like I always use the analogy of the frog being boiled in water. You know what I mean? Like, you don't notice at the beginning, this seems okay, a lot of nice restaurants, this could be okay. And it's only... the evil of multiculturalism is only noticeable as it progresses. And, then a country reaches a stage where basically the local European hegemony it will be lost. Like, for example, now London is no longer, like John Cleese recently said, it's no longer an English city. And there was a point where that happened. I don't know if you remember that film. Hollywood released a film. It was called London Has Fallen. And it was a terrible action film, but it has a meta message. And it had a picture of Big Ben on fire. And it happened at the moment the demographics clicked from like 49.99 to the other direction.
Do you happen to know, did you see that film yourself?
I did see that film, yes.
Yeah, who were the bad guys?
I think it was Muslims, they were the bad guys.
Well, that's pretty based for Hollywood these days.
Well, I guess so. But, it had another message, it was one of these, Jewish things that they make. And, but, it was anti-Muslim, technically, I guess. It had, what's the name of the guy from 300? Gerard. He's
Gerard Butler.
Gerard Butler, that's him. We had him. He starred in it. It was a terrible film, really. But I enjoyed it. I mean, it wasn't that bad. It was kind of a decent action film, big popcorn film. But to me, it had a meta message because they had these posters everywhere. And the message was that, the capital of essentially what the British Empire is essentially what ruled everyone for the last 500 years. An American empire that rules us now is really a continuation of the British Empire. The message was, you're fucked. And, it's a nice little message. So we should wake up.
This Westpac Bank thing is evidence to support that notion that, to be able to say things like we're saying tonight. We're all at risk here. I mean, this is Blair Cottrell is public enemy number one. Of course it will start with him, just like in the YouTube world it starts with Alex Jones, right? But this is going to become a trend that continues, and what it is the corporate world pledging its fealty to the globalist agenda, to the trans agenda, to the diversity agenda, and they're shutting down. They will continue to shut down anyone, and it's not just censorship of speech now, and it's not just we have a privately owned company, that's a social media platform, and we can decide what the rules are. That notion that libertarians have been supporting all along of every business can make its own decisions about who it will allow as a customer. Now it's getting down to banks, which we are really dependent on in this future cashless society that we're moving towards, where you will be unpersoned, and unless you get microchipped and pledge your allegiance to the beast and tattoo 666 to your forehead and pretend to be gay, you won't be allowed to buy a coffee. You won't be allowed to pay your electricity bill, and they'll shut off the power to your house anyway eventually. It's where we're headed.
Well, that's a tad Alex Jones, but I think we are heading down.
It's not.
We are. No. I get it. I mean, I like Alex Jones, so I'm always fond of conspiracy theories. But I think obviously it's again like. They try the water with someone like Blair, and then they do it to other figures. Yeah, absolutely. I think, and where are we going to go? I mean, we're going to have to move to Russia. I mean, it's like the 20th century's been reversed. It's like Russia used to be behind the Iron Curtain, and they used to come here to seek asylum. And I think, many nationalists are going to have to move to Russia or Hungary or something.
A blast from the past. This is an old article I did on Westpac's intimidating same-sex marriage email. As you can see, October 5, 2017, during the marriage survey, their internal staff youth network sent an email saying, "While we're not one to tell anyone how to roll, this is a no-brainer. If Tony Abbott's daughter is voting yes, so should you." So okay. So the important thing for all our viewers to take away from this is voluntarily close down your Westpac bank accounts if you have them and move to another business. I don't think there'll be any banks that are going to outwardly support freedom of speech or freedom, freedom of homophobia, if that's what they want to call it.
But there's some Russian bank will be right.
Yeah, well, that's it. That's the thing is what we're seeing is that now with companies like PayPal, organizations like Google, Facebook, and now these Western banks are beginning to, again, pledge their fealty to the globalist agenda. What we're seeing is a lot of companies from Russia and China beginning to emerge and say, hey, what are those morons over there doing? They're cutting out a huge segment of their market. Hey, we'll take you. And so there will be innovation to get around these things in various ways. And obviously cryptocurrency, although it hasn't taken off as a mainstream, transactional method, it is kind of anti-fragile against this sort of thing, especially Bitcoin itself. So, we're going to see innovations to get around this, and it's not going to be the end of the world, but we are seeing these Western corporations betraying the cultures that are
The very
their
principles
hosts.
of our society, the very principles of our civilization.
Sorry, I've got more of Westpac. This is in my original article on it. A Westpac sponsored post. I want more time to spend on your business. They've got a Muslim taking a payment, and the shop is called something of Beirut, which is. And then there's this. Is it in there? I thought it was in there. Oh, it's gone. But there's a good. I'll bring it back.
I was at a friend's house the other day. Well, I won't say exactly who it was, but he's a friend I used to know from the nightclub scene, and he lived in Narre Warren. And we went and got a pizza. We'd caught up. We catch up every year or two, kind of thing. He's an old friend, and his whole area had become Muslim of late. Like, I'd been out there probably a couple of years ago. It had completely changed. There were like all these kind of halal shops, and he was a guy who was probably even of the left. A DJ, and he was just telling me this whole neighbourhood has changed, and he was just shocked, at how it had all changed, and how it was dangerous, and he wasn't happy in his own suburb. And this is what's happening to everybody. Well, not everybody. I mean, I guess maybe if you can live in Hawthorne or Caulfield, like everybody who votes for the Greens.
Give it 40 or 50 years without a drastic change in direction, and it will be everybody.
Well, obviously, yes, and there will be. I think there will be a drastic change. I mean, on the upside, Donald Trump announced he was going to deport millions of people. Now, see, to me, I think this is wonderful. Not that maybe he won't, but that's a great idea. You know what I mean? Like, maybe if we can make deporting what mass immigration was to the last 40, 50 years, maybe everything will be okay. So, I think deporting should be the new black. This
that's hate speech, of course. So.
Oh, I don't think it's hate speech. I think it's the future.
I don't
realize
believe in hate speech. So yeah.
Well, no, neither do I. I don't believe in hate speech either. That's nonsense.
As you mentioned, James, cryptocurrency, that is free speech money because it's decentralized. It's not controlled by any cartel of major corporations, and I think this is why they've announced their new cryptocurrency Libra, which there's no way in hell I'm going to use because they'd probably just confiscate your money for 30 days if they didn't like what you were spending it on.
Don't they know that it's a tampon brand in Australia?
Well, so Facebook. Well, I mean, it is a bloody mess, Facebook.
Yeah, it is. I just left. I just deactivated my account.
I'm thinking of leaving
in the last week. Oh, get out! Just get the fuck out of Facebook.
I got some weird warning.
Leave.
Like, I've had the 30-day bans. I'm an expert at 30 days in Facebook jail. I'm an expert at that. I must have had at least, 5 or 6 of those. But like this time I got some weird warning. It was sort of like a final warning, I think. It was like, listen. And it didn't give me a ban. It says, we don't like something you've said. And it was kind of this weird thing that popped up on my screen. And then went away, and I thought, well, maybe they are going to cut my whole thing off. So I said all my goodbyes and everything, but I'm still there for the moment. So I guess I'll stay.
I got back my Facebook ban last night, and I put on my Facebook post this afternoon, being a good NPC, I love the new Taylor Swift song, You Need to Calm Down. It is a very catchy song. I think it's, going to do well.
Well, in my 10 years on Facebook, I never got banned or reprimanded once. But I guess I got sick of I got left out of the party, so I decided to self-delete. But no, anyone who gives control of their money over to Mark Zuckerberg is an absolute moron, and they deserve to be raped and bankrupt. Financially raped. I mean.
Wow.
Yeah, and the good thing about Blair being a tradie is that he can just deal in cash now. I mean, it's because he said this is not really going to affect me. Luckily, he can just do a whole bunch of cash transactions unless, I don't know, are they going to make it illegal for him to have money on him?
I'm sure he can find some other.
Well, we'll get there.
Some other bank.
Making cash illegal will probably be down the line. But
it's just a terrible precedent. It's just a terrible precedent, and it's extraordinary. There's so many things. You almost think, am I in the Twilight Zone? Is this some kind of dream? You know what I mean? Like, even the whole Brexit thing always shocked me, that there was an election, and then it just hasn't happened. I mean, even like the yes and no vote. I mean, I voted no, and I supported the no side, but I mean, the yes side did win, and if that hadn't been enacted, it would have been a bit of a shock to me. I think, you know what I mean? Like, I don't get how people who voted Remain don't think, well, we lost, and then how come? there's still no Brexit.
Well,
I guess
because the people who are behind the Remain campaign, like the masterminds of the
EU
whole
vampires, globalist
the EU
vampires.
vampires, they don't actually give a damn about democracy. Democracy for them is just a tool and a virtue signal to control and manipulate people, and that's why they need mass immigration, because they can just import the voters that they need for their agenda. They don't give a damn about sovereignty. They don't give a damn about nations.
No, we know that. I mean,
all they want is power, and they'll do whatever they have to, and they'll virtue signal in any way they can.
And we're in the end game of this process. This process was set in train a while ago, at least after World War II, but probably even a long time before that. And popular culture and stuff has been signaling about these people for a long, long time. Vampires, obviously, werewolves. We even look at, say, some of the great post-war writers. We look at Ian Fleming, who wrote his James Bond film. Obviously, Spectre, the octopus. Right there in the middle of the living room, Spectre obviously represents the globalists. And you look at someone like
in the Bible. It's all
in the Bible, of course. It's all in the Bible. It's all a good book.
Satanic stuff.
You're right. You are right. And another one too. William Burroughs warns about these people, even though he was sort of part of it to some extent, with a group called Interzone, which he calls Interzone Inc., which is like this evil group of people that are involved in drugs and they used to go to Marrakesh, to get boys or whatever, and then there was everything in Naked Lunch. If you look at it now, it reads more like a documentary than at the time. It was considered like the height of surrealism. Now it reads like the news. Which is, I think, what he was trying to warn people about, with Interzone. The Interzone, what is the Interzone? The fucking globalists, right?
Yeah. Well, now, there's people in the chats who are
demanding bring on Dave.
So it's about time I jump out, but I want to ask you one question before I go, Richard, which is,
yes.
You said you supported the Remain position with Brexit.
No, I didn't.
Since that, was that sorry?
No, I supported Brexit, absolutely.
Sorry, you must have misspoke, because you said before you supported the Remain, or maybe you mean you supported.
What I was doing, what I was saying is that that why didn't Remain supporters now support Brexit? Now that Brexit did win, shouldn't Remain supporters be upset that British democracy had not been enacted? What I was saying was I supported no. Yep. But yes did win, and if yes wasn't enacted by the Parliament, I would be upset on behalf of yes. Do you understand what I mean? I
gotcha.
supported no, and I support Brexit. Okay, they're my two positions. No, I love Brexit. I've been pissing off everybody in the local film scene for years doing this, and it's great fun. I think, to me, artists and people who create art festivals like I do and stuff, they should be a little dangerous and a little contrarian and a little, in your face. They should push, hot button issues, and that's what I've been trying to do. That used to be something that was considered valuable in our society and valuable in our culture. But now, it's ridiculous. Everything's got to be politically correct, and it's all crap.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, not us, because we're uncuckable.
That's it, baby.
So, James, as you mentioned, you've got a show tomorrow night at Foxy Friday, but you're also ferociously blogging on rationalrise.com.
That's it, yeah. So, come along there, guys, and check it out. I published 2 articles today. I'm aiming for an average of 1, but I managed to bust out 2 articles today, one on the Blair Cottrell and Westpac bank situation, and another entitled Jewish Supremacy on Proud Display in Salon. So come and read about that.
Ooh,
you'll send our chat into
the
a
old
frenzy
JQ,
with that.
Yeah. Cool, guys. Well, thanks for having me once again, and I'll be back probably in 2 weeks for my next appearance on the Uncockables, and over to Dave.
Yep. Thanks, James.
Thank you, James.
Soon.
See you guys. See you to everyone at home. Have a great night.
Come on in.
James hasn't hung up yet.
I'll let you turn me off.
Turn him off.
Yeah, there we go.
The Australian flag. That's what it is.
Now, me and Richard...
cuddle up to is.
Yeah, we've got to share the microphone. Right. Dave gets his own...
I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
Dave gets his own microphone because he's a soft spoker. You're very loud. I'm reasonably loud.
Yeah. I'm one of the most softly spoken racist in Australia, I think.
Oh, did somebody say that about you?
Yes, me.
You're going to wear that.
Yeah.
So Dave is here now.
I've been so far to the right that I've been off camera.
Yeah. You fell off the edge. Now, you did XYZ live on Monday, obviously.
Yes.
Blair's bank account getting shut down, that happened on the Tuesday. So obviously you wrote an article for XYZ. What's your take on it?
Oh, it's an act of war. Okay, so Blair's a tradie and he can deal in cash. Great. So what if you have been doxxed by Antifa and you lose your job, and then the bank says, we're not going to let you have a bank account? And then what if the next bank says that? What if the next bank says that? What if your only option for getting money is the dole? How are you going to get money? Basically, like any attack that the left or the globalists or the corporate corporations do on your ability to make money is effectively an attack on your ability to eat. So what do they expect people to do?
They want, Nazis to starve, basically.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Yeah.
what they want.
Yeah, they're not going to get that. It's an act of violence.
Yeah, obviously, I think it was really shocking that they would go after someone like Blair's bank account. I mean, again, it's. I mean, we really are living within an iron curtain. It's at the moment it's closing, so there is some element of possibility of resistance now. I mean, I guess that's why we can all speak out, and the show's being closed down. We aren't being thrown to a gulag just yet, but we're on the way there. So if this agenda is allowed to continue, and I think all right-wing conservatives and really a lot of people on the left who care about civil liberties and freedom of speech need to really have a listen to all this stuff and think, what the hell's going on? I mean, imagine if they did it to somebody who was some left-wing speaker. If they were going
give it 5-10 years, yeah.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, remember they're attacking Jeremy Corbyn just because he's apparently an anti-Semite, because he dares question some aspects of Israel. I mean, it's absolute nonsense. And for example, other people excited in America at the moment about Bernie Sanders, but they're not going to allow Bernie Sanders to run, just as the globalists didn't allow him to run last election. They're going to put up Biden. He's going to fucking lose to Trump.
Yeah. Richard, I've got to say, people in the chat, they were saying that you look like Viktor Orban.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. You look like Viktor Orban, and you're saying deportations of the future. I like that.
There you go. That's it. And put me in charge. Believe me, Australia would be right back on its feet within 5 years.
Now, Blair had already been banned from PayPal, which he was using his PayPal account to raise funds for his appeal against his blasphemy conviction for insulting Muslims over the Bendigo mock beheadings done in 2015 under Victoria's Racial and Religious Tolerance Act. So what, in response to that, he'd just been giving out his bank details to have his followers directly donate to the bank account. So probably Westpac would be known there's these small amounts of money going into his account. And so, it could have been and it was also brought to both of our attention by Blair that Julie Hoskins, who'd campaigned against the Bendigo Mosque, she had her bank with Bendigo Bank shut down in 2015 because of for activism. So this is
Jim Salim had
enough,
his account closed as well.
Oddly enough,
when?
Sometime this month. I'm not sure which bank, but yeah.
Oddly enough, my advice to Blair would probably be to go choose a globalist bank. You know what I mean? Simply because something like HSBC or something that has a lot of dubious clients from around the world. I mean, HSBC was involved in the money laundering of money from the drug cartels. So, they're involved in lots of controversy. So you need a bank that's kind of internationalist. And then they probably won't care that you're a bit controversial, you know what I mean? And particularly if it doesn't have its head office in Australia, find an international. Honestly, I mean, funnily enough, they'd probably be the bank that will not cave to pressure because they have Saudi clients and God knows what they're up to. So Blair would be like a small blip on their radar of leave poor Blair alone. We don't care. So honestly enough, probably an international bank would probably be best for him. Isn't that funny?
Why not?
Strange world.
Why not give it a try?
I mean, I don't know. I could be wrong.
And these international banks, they can't track money laundering or money that's being used to fund terrorism and that. But Blair.
So what you're saying is that we should launder money.
Blair's earning money through building things, building houses, actually society. And,
yes.
But no, that's apparently not allowed.
And maybe he should have an account for his activism, so to speak, and then one for his personal business that he never reveals to the public what it is. So that would probably be another sound advice there.
All right, and we've got you on, Dave. Now you're a mad AFL fan. You're a Melbourne supporter.
Yeah, I've been telling people I'm not going to go to the football anymore, though. And they've got the fun police out, the thought police.
Yes,
What's going on?
The behavioural awareness officers. Now,
That just, like, I want to know who was in the room when they came up with that name. I want to know who came up with the name. I want to know what the faces on all of the people in the room looked like when they said, okay, we're going to call them behavioural awareness officers. I want to know what they said. Like, sure, there must have been somebody in the room who said, you're a dickhead.
I think football's one of the last great Australian. I mean, again, it's based on the Roman Colosseum and, all this kind of thing. It's where the masses get to unleash their pent-up energy.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Obviously, whenever I look at the football as someone who's got a degree in political philosophy, I think, can you imagine if you could take this energy and use it politically? I would love to see the energy of the football used to a political... If we do that, well, then we will take back this country.
Yes.
But, at the moment, you know what I mean? Like, all the energy that of the average Aussie tradie or the average Aussie working class, middle class person is used by the football, and that's where they have their tribalism within the football. You like Melbourne, or in my family's case, it was Essendon, where Bombers supporters traditionally. Even though I sort of like football, but I don't really watch it. As I said, I don't know. I mean, tennis is the one sport I used to play tennis a lot, so that's the one sport I love. But the whole Adam Goodes thing is something that's fascinating. Should we get onto that?
Well, yeah, because this whole crackdown, Glenn Wilkin said, no, there's been no fan crackdown, but coincidentally it happened after, like, that documentary was released in the AFL, oh yes, we didn't do enough to stop the booing of Adam Goodes. The thing that really, I think, showed how ludicrous the situation had gone on is that they're cracking down on the term flog now, which is a non-discriminatory
I thought it was the word bald-headed.
Well, yeah, because he might have had alopecia, like, he might be self-conscious about his appearance, but...
Yeah, sure.
But flog, like, anyone could be a flog, black or white, male or female. It's an inclusive insult.
Male or female, like, you need to keep going for another about 60 here.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, gay, straight, cis or transgender.
All that nonsense. Oh, unbelievable. But what's going on with this Adam Goodes thing? I know a little bit about this simply because a lot of my friends went to the Sydney Film Festival. They had this documentary on Adam Goodes, and a lot of the left-wing ones, some of them still keep me on their page, God knows why. But anyway, they do, and they did this, Australians have got to go see this Adam Goodes. And I said, listen, hang on a minute. This is Adam Goodes from memory. I don't know much about football, but I did study that particular incident. There was like this 10 or 13-year-old girl, and he was walking off, and she yelled, ape at him, I think.
Yeah.
And they instantly thought, she means that in a racist context. Well, first of all, a 10 or 13-year-old girl might just mean that, I don't know, innocently, so to speak. And then they say, it's like the parents' fault. You mean, so they didn't teach her every racial insult in the world? Like, so every left-wing person knows every racial insult, but not everybody else. I said, look, it was probably an innocent thing. And then from that one incident, that was used as like the kernel. And then I think that most average Australians saw that, and the way he picked on this 10 or 13-year-old girl, I can't remember how old she was, and the way he threw her under the bus, and then started to kind of like grandstand his own identity politics, and he used this as a kind of springboard. Now, every Australian I know didn't like that. Even many on the left didn't like that about him. So that's why he was being booed. Not because he was Aboriginal. Nothing to do with it.
Also,
we have Aboriginal football stars and Aboriginal tennis players and stuff. We've got lots of them. We applaud them all the time.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
He called that girl the face of racism in Australia. And it was after that he got Australian of the Year and said, even though he's a privileged person, said, Australia's a horrible, racist place.
And he said, just remember whose land you're on. Like,
fuck off.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Just remember
who laid the AFL pitch.
He's such a fucking idiot.
He's a cheat. Like, he played for free kicks. He was dirty.
There
are a lot of reasons that he was booed.
I agree with you, absolutely. And I don't know too much about football. I think there are a lot of reasons he was disliked. I mean, like Anthony Mundine, he's not a particularly popular figure for various controversial things. Some people don't like him. You know what I mean? I didn't go to the football. I never booed him or whatever. But like, I can understand why people are, and it's almost racist when these left-wingers say you can't boo Adam Goodes. So in other words, every single Aboriginal person has to be a saint. You know what I mean? They can't have one or two people within the community who are arseholes. Yes, they do. Like, because within every community there's a couple of arseholes at the very least. As a matter of fact, there's normally a whole bunch. So, it's ridiculous, and it's counterintuitively paternalistic. And also, too, weird thing about left-wing politics is they all threw this girl under the bus. So whatever happened to feminism? I don't know.
Yeah.
They chose the patriarchy.
Well, we found out who was higher. We found out,
football. I'll put your head in, mate.
Yeah.
They were all the left. Oh yes, my sweetheart.
We found out who was higher in the PC card deck. Yeah, Adam Goods beats a 13-year-old girl.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. One of the thing about the Adam Goods, it does relate to what's happened this week because it's part of a 1-2 punch because they were trying to change history by saying that we didn't do enough to stop people from booing Adam Goods.
Bullshit.
At the time, they went into full nanny corporation mode. They were nagging us. They threw a few people out of the grounds at the time as well.
Yeah.
And so last week or the week before, whenever it was, I was like, okay, where's this actually going? Where are they going with this? And so that was the setup for the behavioural awareness officers.
And there's also been a few other incidents where there was a supporter, Port Adelaide supporter, who threw a banana at Eddie Betts, Indigenous Adelaide player. And then there was also, this was next level, there was some footage on Facebook featuring Paddy Ryder, who's Port Adelaide Indigenous player. Somebody left banana emojis, and they tracked that fan down and like suspended him for a few.
Wow.
Made him apologize. I mean, it wasn't even at the game. It was just like an emoji on Facebook. I think we need to ban banana emojis. Like,
Absolutely.
Yeah, or just like have they cracked down on actually people bringing bananas into, those security people who should, when they check bags, make sure there's no bananas.
If they're going to be like completely equal, they need to crack down on crackers as well, surely.
Crackers?
Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous. This whole PC world and the weird hierarchy you're mentioning before. Like it changes. The way, for example, that feminism got trumped by on this issue, like the Aboriginal issue. But sometimes Muslims get trumped, and it all moves. Or sometimes like the LBGT gets trumped by the Muslim agenda, and sometimes it's reversed. Where is the hierarchy? It seems to be like this. Maybe it's a spectrum.
It's fluid.
It's a spectrum. There you go.
Yeah.
You see, we learn something new every day.
The only thing that they're consistent about is their anti-whiteness and their it's always directed at undermining Western civilization.
Of course.
While we're on the sport thing, this reminds me of a doozy. There was an article in the Sydney Morning Herald saying Israel Folau, you shouldn't attack him for his homophobia. It's not his fault. It's just that his islander race has been brainwashed by white Christian missionaries.
Unbelievable. Classic. I've no idea. And
so it's white people's fault.
And apparently they're following this guy now. He went to his local church and spoke on something, and they were like, secretly there, like recording him or something. This is just unbelievable. Again, he is a minority, and he's entitled to his own opinion about religion. Just the way I guess Anthony Mundine's allowed his own crazy interpretation of Islam. I don't like often what he says, but he's entitled to it if he wants to say it. Where is the sense of freedom? Where is the sense of suddenly again, like the minority is then trumped because they didn't like what he said about whatever it is he said about the LBG community and heaven and hell and all this nonsense.
I wonder if the Dalai Lama was brainwashed by Christian missionaries as well.
Oh yeah, but
he's come out. He's rather alt-right.
Yeah, he's absolutely.
We should welcome him. We should give him a medallion to Hungary.
He's practically a white supremacist.
He's a total Nazi. What I hear. Unbelievable. Now he should get his bank account taken away.
That probably won't affect him though. Like he just.
You wrote on the XYZ. Jeff Kennett offers a somewhat civnat explanation for these behavioural because he went on radio on the Monday saying that. They look like new arrivals and they don't understand the culture of AFL. And
that's the old Jeff.
Yeah.
Back.
But after Gillan McLaughlin at the press conference Tuesday said, I'd had a word to Jeff and he's withdrawn that, and Jeff Kennett he apologised for it. Yeah, and he said, I have always been in favour of higher immigration to Australia.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so completely cut.
Okay, so
he's blackmailed something.
So the tell was in the way that he made the argument, because he sort of almost went there, like he almost talked about race, but he went at it from the perspective of culture. Like he said, okay, look, they don't understand our culture. That's why we see this funny stuff going on.
Yes.
that leaves you open to wiggle room from the left, because then the left will go, okay, well,
Yeah.
tell you what, we will hire third world invaders to be the behavioural awareness officers. We'll just make sure that they're fully integrated with Australians, or if they're not, we'll give them cultural diversity training to understand. But so the thing about this is, if you go there from an ethnic nationalist point of view, you say, no, look, these people are third world invaders. And that image of a third world invader standing over an Australian at the football, telling him to watch his mouth or else he'll get kicked out, is the image of our ethnic replacement.
Well, interestingly enough, I mean, what Jeff Kennett said, I mean, obviously, whenever someone says something politically incorrect, that's what they truly think. Now, they obviously then have to go on and apologise for it, which, again, builds up resentment within the person because, you know, everyone likes to say the truth every now and then. So Jeff Kennett probably still believes exactly what he said to begin with. Now, of course, he's had to bow down to, everyone's got to bow down to the golden calf of political correctness. But, like, you know, I've noticed exactly what he said, that within the security industry, that Muslims and Africans are becoming almost ubiquitous.
Yep.
And really, is this really, you know, I mean, often from these communities is where you're seeing a lot of crime and where you're seeing a lot of terrorist attacks. Do we really want them guarding the security at the MCG? I mean, how you've only got to get one or two dodgy ones in there, and suddenly you're slipping in explosive devices and God knows what.
Well, the
so
irony,
this is a very dangerous state of affairs, I think, in my opinion.
The
and
irony
I think for
is,
public safety, I think what Jeff Kennett said, you know, really needed to have been actually listened to, because I think we're going to see something horrible happen, and it will be because. You know, and you see it at the airport. I mean, you know, I've been held up and, you know, what's called done the whole thing where they go over you with for explosive devices by a Muslim person.
Yeah. Again, that's the symbol of our replacement. Again, like I've seen old boomer white people being searched by Muslims. Yeah. The irony is that we only have those bag checkers at the airport. Because Muslims have been committing terrorist acts all over the world, and B, because we've had mass immigration of Muslims, they get a little bit upset if white people check them and for terrorism, so they have to be checked by their own.
Yeah. Because they're everywhere. They're not just at the AFL. They're at the airport. You know, government buildings.
Every single time.
Yeah, but
every single time.
Like, if they're there, I know that it's not going to be very rigorous because, like, at the football, like, you're not supposed to take in, like, metal, like, drinking bottles. Like, I've just been able to, like, you know, hide it, like, in my bag and, like, they've, like, been able to get through. It was easy. Yeah. They're not very good. Yeah.
I don't feel safe.
Yeah. And
no, I think
like,
that's obviously the agenda, you know, and the whole point of security is for it to be safe, and to put it within the very community where this problem is coming from is just an invitation to danger. You know, I watched this film Black Sunday, which is the first novel of Thomas Harris, which is about someone who hijacks the Goodyear blimp and turns it into a kind of essentially a terrorist device. You know, I mean, you know, when you've got people crowded together like you have at the MCG during the finals weeks, you know, this is a terrible invitation to disaster if security is being controlled by certain quarters, let's say.
You regularly still go to the football. I don't much anymore.
I'm not going to go anymore.
Oh, but you've been recently.
Not this year.
Not this year.
No.
Well, in your experience, what's the racial mix been of the crowd?
Oh, it's mostly white. Yeah, the football is the ethno state.
Yes.
Yeah. The football is great. It's much different to the cricket when Australia plays India, because when Australia plays India or plays Sri Lanka or Pakistan, there are all these people from India or Sri Lanka or Pakistan there, and all that talk about them being Indian Australians goes out the window, and all of a sudden they're Indian Indians.
Yes, of course.
But yeah, I love the football because, like, you look on the pitch. And it's basically Aussies with a few Aborigines running around. And you look at the stadium, and it's Australian, and it's beautiful. Which again,
if we could use that energy, I mean, and there is tremendous energy. If we could somehow use that politically, we would have a revolution in this country. You know?
The thing about football, like in a healthy country, like football is great because it's just the way that we spend our weekends. The problem that we have now is that we're not healthy. Like, the barbarians have been let in the gates.
It's true.
So,
and we have, the enemy and the vampires are controlling our media and our public discourse space.
Yeah.
And we need to take back that.
And the culture wars are being fought on the football pitch quite literally at the moment.
Yes,
so it's great that, like, basically what's going on is red pilling a lot of Australians, and it's
I
why
agree.
it's why I
agree.
talk about it all the time.
I think a lot like what happened with Israel Folau,
yeah.
for example. I think that really did red pill a lot of people because people are entitled to their own religious beliefs, and he was wasn't even particularly saying what was on that meme. He just shared it. And the idea that he would lose his job, I think it's shocking. Again, we are behind the Iron Curtain. The same problem with Blair Cottrell. It's the same problem with Israel Folau and all these things we talk about on this show. We are behind. I don't know. Maybe you could call it might be like a fabulous curtain. It'd probably be able to It wouldn't be iron. It'd be like
it's pink. It's a pink curtain.
Pink, multicolored. Decorated.
The
with
combination
fairies
of pink,
and,
green, and red. Yeah.
Exactly.
It
would be more like the pepper. It'd be certainly fabulous. The curtain we're behind, but we are behind the velvet curtain. Maybe I don't know.
It was great that this is the moment when AFL fans finally snapped. Like, all right, we tolerated, you telling us to vote yes to, same-sex marriage and all different like diversity rounds. But, when you start, telling us off for the way that we barrack what we've been doing for the past 50 years, that's it. You're actually interfering with how we enjoy the game now. Like, we've had enough.
Yeah. I hope this is a pollen moment, basically. Yeah.
I agree. And, I think people who love the football, which is the true Aussies, as you've pointed out this evening, they need to stand up. They need to realise that this force they're seeing at the football is a political force. And if this Australian people were ever to mobilise that force, you better take your country back. Donald Trump is talking about the beginnings to deport millions of people. If we were to deport 1 or 2 million people in this country, our problems would be over. So, our problems are a lot smaller than other countries. And we just need to get woke, and we need to get politically motivated, and we need to take, the demographic problem that's now facing Australia seriously. Multiculturalism, when it began, might have appeared okay, but like, as I said, it's like the further it goes, the worse it gets, to the point where the local population becomes essentially a minority. And then things turn into South Africa, where they begin to come for your homes and reappropriate your land and murder and kill you. So it's a hideous situation. That is the future. South Africa is our future. So look at that and see, do you want that for your kids and your grandkids? If you don't, we'll get woke and get nationalist.
Now, it's been busy in Victoria this week. They introduced voluntary euthanasia on Wednesday. That came into effect. I went to the vigil on the Tuesday night against euthanasia. The mainstream media, they went, but they just did their sort of live crosses and then left. I stuck around for the for the whole thing. It's very demoralizing for pro-life people at the moment. And then that was the same day on the Tuesday, where the Andrews government is going to have another go at introducing gender fluid birth certificates.
Again, they're both linked, because it means that when you have all these kids who have basically been tricked into taking lots and lots of drugs and mutilating their genitals, realize that they've totally messed up their lives, they'll be able to kill themselves.
Well, what was funny, it's not really funny, but did you see that situation in, I can't remember what country, but I think it was in Norway or one of these Scandinavian countries, where there was some young girl, she was like 18, 17, and she'd been abused growing up, and she decided to use the euthanasia option to end her life. Now, this is terrible. Now, to me, all this euthanasia, abortion, this is all part of the globalist death cult, which is, again, goes back to vampires, goes back to everything, the spectre, what everyone's been in through culture. They've been warning us about this for hundreds of years. The Bible itself warns us about this kind of evil, and it quite literally is satanic. It's a death cult, and we should embrace life, and it's quite obvious what's going on, and it really does wake one to actually religious concepts, to Christian religious ideas. I think a lot of this stuff, because it's almost a proof of it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because this stuff is real. It's going on, and people do worship death, and there's a reason for this. And it does. And Christianity provides at least one very interesting hermeneutic about why that might be.
That's why I called tonight's episode Fluid FlogBank. That's well, because
what a title.
Westpac is a bank, and that's the word we're not allowed to use anymore. And if you want to open up a bank account, you can present a birth certificate which has your gender now as fluid.
Yeah.
That's new, isn't it? And this is ridiculous.
Yes, it's awful. It's like. It's almost like an end play for them. It's like we've.
But I think they've gone too far. They're overplaying their hand.
I hope so.
Yeah,
thankfully, like we've been told by historical example that socialists almost always do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Overplay the hand.
Yeah. And then
I'm sick of all this bullshit.
the key this time, when the reaction comes, will be to not let the socialists write the history afterwards, and then because what they will
like
do,
they did with World War II.
yeah, World War II, the Spanish Civil War, Chile under Pinochet, basically whenever the right have reasserted control, the left have been able to write the history afterwards.
You should always read alternative historians. On World War II, obviously...
uns.com.
Leon de Graal is a very interesting figure.
Okay.
And also, obviously, someone like Irving, he used to be considered David Irving used to be considered the mainstream figure because he provided a slightly different perspective. Obviously, he's in the poo at the moment because of his various beliefs on a certain subject. But still you can, in secondhand bookstores and online, you can find his old books. And they provide another interesting look at that whole period. Obviously, like Churchill's War and books like this that, I remember I got in trouble at school. I went to Ivanhoe Grammar School and I got in trouble because in history class, the teacher would say, Germany invaded Poland, and then they started World War II, they invaded Poland, and then, of course, Britain declared war on Germany. I said, beg your pardon? And I said, Britain declared war. So, in other words, Britain started World War II, right? Because you just said it. No, they invaded Poland. That it's like the thing before. No, Britain declared fucking war on Germany. You know what I mean? Like, and I got sent out of the class must be at least 5 times because I was just repeating what the teacher actually said.
Do you know the British? They actually had a plan to bomb Russia before Germany invaded France.
Yeah.
They were going to they had bases in Iraq and Iran, and they were going to fly over the mountains and try to bomb their oil fields. If you go to uns.com, he's got some really, really great stuff where he's
interesting.
He looks at primary documents.
Good site. Highly recommended. Fully woke, as the saying goes.
There's so much good stuff in there, but if I focus on one aspect, it's that I found out that what we are doing right now has been done before. It happened in America because you had a whole lot of traditional Americans, like European Americans, Catholics, Christians, who realized that their country was being taken over by the Jewish immigrants who were coming from Europe. And they understood that they were starting to try to retell a different story. Rather than the focus being on all the millions of Europeans who died, all of a sudden it was on their own. And so they understood that they were taking over the media, they understood that they were taking over the forms of communication. And so independent newspapers were started up in America in the 50s and 60s. Even back then, they would come under pressure.
Yeah.
And even back then, they were told, groups who were aware of the situation, who were aware of the globalists coming in, were told, basically, you're allowed to talk about it, but don't name the Jew. Don't talk about it.
I think the globalist term, to me, can be applied to a whole different group of people.
Yes.
I mean, as much the Saudis, for example.
Yeah.
And as much, rich plutocrats within, for example, some that were exiled by Putin, oligarch busting. So, and obviously can be applied to rich English aristocrats who maybe back a globalist style agenda, and also like the Euro trash, the people behind the EU, who are often ethnically European. So, I think it's a very broad concept. But, to me, it doesn't just mean what you said before. But it is a very broad concept. But I mean, the leadership, exactly who is in charge of the leadership structure of the globalist cabal? Well, that's something, for another show perhaps. Yeah. But I won't be on.
But basically the point is, what we're doing now has happened before, and the forces we're coming up against,
absolutely,
they're using old tactics. They played this game
old wine in new
before.
bottles.
Well, the globalists, they're trying to start another war this week with Iran's attack on a US ship. Of course,
everyone believed that.
They would. Of course, that's what Iran would do. And we found fingerprints and Iranian identifiable gear on the ship. It all fits. It's basically if you wanted to frame somebody, it's they've got all the evidence.
This is what you have to do when you realize that nobody cares if Iran nukes Israel.
Well, it's a very interesting situation. Obviously, what did they do? They tried on the old. I tried to find it. Then there's a great meme on Facebook I posted, where it's just them. It said, well, like Iran hit our tankers or something, and had the rest of the world was like some character going,
Did they?
I don't think so. You fucking liars. You know what I mean? I don't know. There's something else just happened. Some drone got shot down. I mean, they're just going to keep trying this bullshit on.
Did you hear the name
until
of the
they have
ship?
another war for Israel. Fucking
Did
hell.
you hear the name of the ship? I heard it was called the Lusitania.
Oh, but false flag,
mention
that's,
the war,
that's
don't mention
just
the
a
war.
conspiracy. I mean, it's never happened before throughout all of world history.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, it only happened, like a few years back when, like, Syria, chemical weapons were used on Syrian civilians by the Assad
even
government.
if you don't buy into the conspiracy theory apropos 9/11, I mean, I remember seeing the Herald Sun the day after 9/11, and it had Saudi Arabia. It was the name of every single terrorist outside of one. They were all from Saudi Arabia. I thought, we're going to war with Saudi Arabia. But did we? No! We went to war with every other single Muslim country except Saudi Arabia, who happened to work for... I think we all know.
They're our great ally, Saudi Arabia.
bullshit.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. All hell.
Christ almighty.
Yeah.
This bullshit. It's amazing. They keep flying up the flagpole. People do keep believing it, but people are sick of it, and on left and right, people are sick of it. And they know it's a fucking lie what's going on at the moment. And I don't know if Trump will give them this war. I mean, obviously, I imagine if Trump were to give them the war, he'll get his fucking wall. But I don't think he's that stupid. I think he's going to at least hold off to term 2 of Trump, because I don't think it'll be very popular. The Iran war has always been a scary war because they're not so much of a cakewalk as a few of the other countries that we've marched on into.
It's funny with Trump, because a lot of people on the new right are upset with Trump. They're like, okay, where's the wall? All that sort of stuff. I maintain that Donald Trump, yes, he's the president, but he's not the most powerful person in America.
Of course, the globalists,
You've basically, like from the start, you've got a whole system of government which was designed...
Deep state.
Oh, well, even before the deep state, you've got a system of government which was actually designed to make sure that there were checks and balances. And from there, you've had essentially a century of globalists, step by step, putting a system in place that if you want to dismantle it, you can't do that overnight. And so Trump has gone in and, like, he's had more success getting the country next door to close their border on the other side.
I know.
Than he has with his own border.
And he achieved that from a tweet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which almost felt like the beginning of, like, the Mexicans will pay for the wall. Remember that famous quote?
Yeah.
I think Trump is great, and I'm known within the new right and the dissident right and the alt right even as a very much a one-eyed Trump supporter, because I do think he does have trouble with his agenda sometimes. That's because he really is fighting this foe that we all know who it is, and they really are that powerful sometimes, and they really do stymie him. But the very
US
fact that they hate him
just one moment. US presidents do get assassinated from time to time. But please continue.
That hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
I mean, the rumor is that, while there is a globalist cabal, there's a rumor that within America there is also a nationalist and patriot cabal, and that's the only reason Donald Trump and his family are still alive. So we can hope, obviously the whole QAnon conspiracy theory, which I don't buy into all of it, but there might be some truth to it. And also, even if it isn't true, it might become true. Do you understand that people within the NSA and the Pentagon and all those people might say, hang on a minute, this Q, I think, maybe it wasn't true to begin with, but not a bad idea.
Don't just trust the plan, be the plan.
Exactly. There you go, my dear. See, that is smart. That is woke thinking. Even if it was originally Kushner's cheekiness on I don't know, getting up to no good on online, just making the whole thing up, maybe it could become real. You know what I mean? Yeah. Beautiful.
There's a good comment here by Rabbi Foreskin. Iran took
Hi,
babies out of incubators. Yeah, that was a bit of fake war history from I think the Kuwait War, where there was some Kuwait woman who said, when the Iraqis they went into a hospital and they killed all the babies in the hospital, and it was like completely fake. Like she was like a US puppet from Kuwait, but like everyone just accepted it.
For me,
go ahead, sir. Go ahead, sir.
I'm doing my little tangent. For me, the thing that just killed me was finding out that, like, when they found the wreck of the Lusitania, they just found so many shells down there. Like that thing was like loaded up to the brim. They've been doing this again and again and again.
Yeah, it's there's a lot we can go into on this topic, but not good.
I've got Port Film Co-op. He wants us to spend a bit of time talking movies since you're here.
Sure. I started watching a great new show called Too Old to Die Young, directed by Nicholas Winding Refn. He's one of the hot directors at the moment, and I highly recommend it. It's coming, I think, through Amazon Prime. It's all... don't join up Amazon Prime. Just download the fucking thing from Pirate Bay, which you can access, whatever. Or, don't ever give globalists your actual money. I say this as someone within the entertainment industry. If you do actually really like a guy's work of art, like you do really like the show once you've watched it, when it comes out locally on DVD or when it comes out on DVD or Blu-ray overseas, get it then. So that way the filmmaker does eventually get your money. Also, The Handmaid's Tale, I highly recommend to people.
Make The Handmaid's Tale happen.
Real. I'm a huge fan. I'm definitely a future commander for Gilead. You know what I mean? Like, Commander Wolstencroft's got a real ring to it, doesn't it? I think Commander Lawrence who's come into season 3, he's playing a major part. He was someone who was an avant-garde intellectual who plays a very important part in the new Gilead. I thought, that's me, isn't it? You know what I mean? Like someone who's kind of in the avant-garde art scene of it, who somehow secretly has orchestrated this wonderful new right-wing utopia, which is I love that show. It's meant to be a critique of that kind of thing. My girlfriend and I, we sit there watch it. We go, oh, fuck, I love this shit, This is so great. We're absolutely addicted to it.
Is it like watching that David Cameron movie with the blue people and barracking for the humans?
I don't know, but I mean, I love it. I love Aunt Lydia. Aunt Lydia got injured in the last series in season 3. Now she's got a little motor scooter, if you know Doctor Who. She's gone full Davros. She's running around on a motor scooter. So we love that. Handmaid's Tale. If you haven't watched it, get on it, and obviously just watch it outside of the liberal lens. Watch it from the point of view of you love Gilead. And before Gilead, the revolutionaries were called the Sons of Jacob. And I love Commander Waterford's wife, Serena Joy, and she's like this kind of feminist, but who believes in she's like a radical traditionalist. She's like sort of feminist, but believes in the old female roles. So she's trying to bring back, and I love it because she's sort of conflicted in it. And I love this kind of.
We're going to have a special for the women on the Australian alt-right. It's going to be a sandwich making competition.
And dragged across concrete.
No, is it going to be a bake-off? Because I heard that.
Oh, they're going to bake cookies, are they?
Yeah. Don't you remember Lisa Sanford saying she joined the alt-right because she wanted other women to talk about baking with?
Absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah. And also the new Mel Gibson film, Dragged Across Concrete, which was described as alt-right pornography. Obviously, that's fantastic. You should definitely go check that out.
What's the plot of that one? What's the premise?
It's got Vince Vaughn in it. Very solid 2 leads. And just go see it. Dragged Across Concrete. It's about 2.5 hours long. It's a long film, a little bit slow moving, but it's really, really well done. Highly recommended. Definitely of a right wing orientation. Highly recommended to everybody. There's a whole bunch of stuff I could probably go on about, but they're the 3 main things I'd say. Handmaid's Tale, Dragged Across Concrete, and obviously Mel Gibson's got this new film coming out called The Rothschilds. I don't know what that's about. Apparently it's about a rich Jewish family who secretly control everything, but it's got nothing to do with the real Rothschilds family, of course. I mean, that's obvious. Mel Gibson, you gotta love him, don't you?
I want to...
The old Joker.
True Aussie.
Yeah. I liked him in Gallipoli.
I like him in everything, mate.
Yeah. Yes.
He's just a legend.
Do you know, actually, knowing what I know about Mel Gibson now, it's made me re-evaluate the film Payback. Yeah. Because in that film, he is up against the mob and he wants his money back. But he's like the whole point of it is like, okay, he goes to one guy at a certain level and he says, I want my money back. And the guy's like, I can't give you your money. So, right, well, okay, I'm going to kill you and I'm going to go to the next guy.
Yeah.
He keeps going to the next guy. Eventually,
high.
He gets to the very, very hierarchy. And he understands the idea that each one of these people is answers to somebody else.
He's made lots of woke films over the years. And obviously the one Conspiracy Theory that he did, I think it was before September 11. It's full of so many weird clues of things that have happened. Some people have examined like the film Conspiracy Theory by Mel Gibson, where it has actually very woke ideas and even has actual warnings towards September 11, which didn't happen until a year or 2 after that. Obviously, it was also within the show. I think the X-Files. There was a spin-off show they did called the
Millennium.
Yeah, Millennium, that's it. They had warnings about September 11. So this was all within our culture. Also Fight Club. I remember Fight Club coming out in 1999. I remember with the buildings collapsing at the end, It was like Project Mayhem. I remember thinking that when it happened. This is very Project Mayhem, isn't it, And the mayhem's begun.
We're making good time tonight.
We are.
A couple of other things that I've thought of. Hear about Alex Jones. He allegedly sent child porn to the Sandy Hook families because there's that lawsuit that's happening. But it was malware that was sent to Alex Jones, and therefore it went out.
That would be a globalist trap. Obviously.
Yeah, they're always trying to sort of frame like Alex Jones.
They're always trying to get rid of him.
He's a secret pervert, or because
he must really know some shit. Like seriously, like to go after somebody that hard. That's amazing.
Yeah, they really are going after him, and the way they deplatformed him and stuff. I always wondered about him, whether he was, possibly what's the word, controlled opposition. But the way they went after him, I think, he's probably fairly legitimate. And I mean, I don't always agree with every single thing he says. I do think, he gets very hysterical and worked up, which almost maybe is against. Because I've often listened to him when he's calm, and you just think this is 100% true, everything this guy's saying. But he's considered like this insane conspiracy theorist. But sometimes when he gets overly angry and I don't know, and he gets all like that, you know what I mean? It's doesn't always help his argument. If I would give him some advice, just remain a little calmer, because what you're saying, even if it's not always correct, and also too with a conspiracy theory, it's conjecture. You're not all when you're examining a conspiracy theory, you don't have every detail. You might occasionally make a mistake. So if he's made a mistake, he should be allowed to say so. And it's not that controversial that he occasionally might make the odd mistake on a factual thing or this and that, or get something wrong like Sandy Hook or whatever the fuck he did. There it is.
I liked it when he gate crashed. Stephen Crowder's changed my mind on Google, and he was like, Stephen Crowder reached me.
He's funny too, isn't he? Have you seen that great meme on Facebook where it's like, how there's a new press secretary at the White House? And Alex Jones, the new press secretary. Can you imagine that? That's the alternative. That's Gilead, isn't it? That's Gilead right there.
Yes.
Bring it on. Bring it on. Pence could be the president of Gilead. They get rid of Trump, Pence, I think, could be the first president of Gilead. Just look at him with that white hair and all that Christian stuff. Oh.
I want to end the show by...
And the laser eyes.
Oh, the laser eyes.
By
sort of that, Pence.
promoting an event that's happening in Sydney this weekend. The New South Wales Patriots against the extreme left. They're organising a solidarity march in Penrith. Bring your flag, show how proud you are to be part of this great country. So this is a continuation of the True Blue Crew's Aussie Pride Flag March, which originated in Melbourne. It's not happening this year. There was one in Sydney last year, but the New South Wales Patriots there, they've got another one on this Saturday, so it's from 12 till 3 at Memorial Park in Woodruff. So,
in Penrith, huh?
Yeah. So,
out in Sydney's West.
Yep.
Wow. Good on.
Well, go support it. Go support your local nationalists, and remember to stay woke and speak out online. We still have freedom at the moment. The velvet fabulous curtain has not fully descended on us all. So while we still can, get out there and speak freedom and speak your truth. Even if you occasionally make the odd mistake, that's okay. Just get out there and fight the good fight.
Part of the reason why there's no True Blue Crew flag march in Melbourne is because, they were banned from Facebook, the True Blue Crew. That was during the post-Christchurch purge. The TBC pages got zucked, so there basically is no way for them to sort of organise something. New South Wales Patriots against the extreme left, they're the only people that haven't been banned, and so we're able
Could
to
they organise it on Gab or something like that, or?
Still not enough people over there.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Yeah.
Did you hear about Jordan Peterson? He's setting up a new think space.
Yeah, we spoke about that.
And someone else suggested I get on VK, which is apparently the
Russian one,
Russian version of
yes,
Facebook.
I've been told that.
I think if I do get, what's it called, shut down on Facebook, I'll appear somewhere else. Don't worry, people.
You were talking about on XYZ Live that Matty thinks that YouTube is messing with him. Like he's noticed he is.
Oh yeah, it is. Because what Matty's saying backs up what I've seen said by a few bigger YouTubers as well. Basically, YouTube are not letting your videos turn up in people's recommended feeds. And so the way that a channel grows, because people will subscribe for a little while and then they'll unsubscribe. People watch something for a little while, then they move on. But the way you grow is through that recommendation. And so it's like a slow play. Like rather than banning your site altogether, the idea is, okay, just make it harder to grow your channel and harder to get new fans. And that decreases the motivation. And so that's been backed up by, I think, the guy who does Computing Forever. He said the same thing. And a couple of other people have said that as well.
And it was also, I think, breaking news last Thursday night as well, about midnight, when Black Pigeon Speaks channel went down for repeated hate speech violations.
That was a shot across the bow.
But
they were just testing the waters.
Fabulous velvet curtain.
But because there was enough
repress-free speech,
outrage about it, his channel was restored. But now he is saying, I'm going to upload my content in advance to BitChute, which is
That's a good sign.
well, it's
Free, technically.
YouTube survives in Australia because the government and the telcos block their opposition.
Yeah, pretty much, eh? Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. And I'm still having trouble embedding from BitChute. They need to make it a bit more easier to use WordPress and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I think eventually we have to transition off these horrendous platforms.
I agree with you, but to a certain extent. But one of the reasons I like being on Facebook is because I do have so many people who are left-wing from the film community and from the arts community. And before that, I was working in clubs, so even from the nightclub community. You know, the amount of them that say, listen, I love your page.
That's really
You know?
interesting.
I really love your page.
Wow.
Some of the traditional Marxists.
Yeah.
I've at least personally woke at least 20 or 30 Marxists and stuff. You know, So one of the reasons I like to be there. The problem I have with Gab sometimes is it's all kind of like new right, alt right kind of people, and you're almost like it's an echo chamber. One of the reasons I try and stay on this thing at least until they will zap me, because I think we don't know how popular these ideas are. You know what I mean? And I think we should, really get them out there as much as we can.
That's why I keep the Exploited on Facebook as well.
That's the spirit.
We red pill the normies, basically.
Yeah. I know. I have a Marxist friend of mine who likes your site.
Oh, beautiful.
Honestly, God, there you go. He's I love XYZ. Oh, that's great. He'll be watching this tonight somewhere. So,
well, I focus on like for me, my main aim is to red pill white men.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's happening.
Because like we've got a lot of white men who.
Oh, white women as well.
Yes.
Serena Joy. You got to remember her.
Yeah.
We've got to have our wives in Gilead.
Yeah, that's
and
it.
our handmaids.
That's it. Yeah, because like
and our Marthas. You watched it?
Yeah, we have been the ones who have been under the mind control for the longest, and so that's why
enough.
That's why, say, like in the gay marriage vote,
Yeah.
It was mostly white people who voted for it. We wake them up and we turn the whole country around, and so
Exactly.
that's where the aim is.
And that ties into what we're saying before about the football. Like finding something that will like mobilise the Australian public the way the football does. And as I said, the day we do that, well, it's the day we take our country back.
Yeah. Employing behavioural awareness officers is a good start.
Nah,
That's an own goal.
Yeah, that'll piss people off.
Yeah.
See, it all works against them. Well, that's some of these new left people don't realise. Their own politics is our best friend, because like it red pills people. It makes them think, what is this bullshit?
Yeah.
And what happened to Israel Folau recently? A lot of people are like, well, I'm a Christian. I don't know. I mean, maybe I don't believe that particular proponent or as radically as say someone like that. But the very idea that you can't even entertain that idea is now, it's again 1984. The fabulous velvet curtain, as we've made up this wonderful term this evening.
The velvet curtain.
It's got to be multicoloured, and all the different genders have got to be on it. So we're all trapped behind there banging to get out.
During my 30-day
Call
Facebook,
it the brown curtain.
How did you do your time hard in Facebook, Joe?
Well, I spent a lot of time on
I've
Gab.
just this image of you
in the
with
yard.
the baseball cap and the baseball.
That's it. It's like
Yeah.
the Great Escape too.
I managed to build up
Like Charles Bronson digging tunnels.
following on Gab. Like I just basically if I saw like a meme I'd just share it to one of the Gab groups, and like people like that. So I just transitioned all of my Facebook posts over to Gab, and I've actually got more followers like on my personal Gab now than I have on my Facebook
That's
page.
the spirit.
Yeah, good work.
That's the spirit.
Good work.
All right, well that's it.
Yeah.
And there's also MeWe. Like I know that
MeWe, look out.
That's also
Instagram.
The Unshackled's got a good following there. We're over 200 followers now. We're growing on Telegram as well. XYZ needs a Telegram channel.
There's lots of platforms.
We're up to nearly 150 on
Just
Telegram.
Use some of the normie ones as well as use some of the more, like your Gabs and stuff. So just have a mixed presence. And
they're all parachutes,
exactly.
basically.
Get
Mine's,
I
think, is garbage. Like,
we still have some freedom. Use it.
Like, I'm not a fan of. I don't use it.
Okay.
So.
All right.
Yeah, for me, it's MeWe, Gab, and Telegram. There's and obviously the problem is BitChute, like we mentioned, BitChute blocked in Australia, but there's also a new BitChute doesn't do live streaming, but there's a new live streaming and I'm uploading Josh Hugh TV, but I heard that Maddie wasn't too impressed by it.
Yeah, we'll check it. Well,
that's what Chris Cantwell is on.
Yeah, basically just get on everything and see which one works.
Before they outlaw VPNs or make it illegal to view websites.
Yeah.
Then anti-association laws, if you get shut out of your bank account, make it illegal for you to
don't give them ideas. Don't give them ideas. The globalists probably watch this show. Soros is
they
probably home eating popcorn right now. Listen, you. Turn it off. All right, is that it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
let's
might
call
wrap
it.
it up
It's
now.
a pleasure. Pleasure, gents, talking to you this evening.
really,
It's
really
great.
fun.
Thank
good,
you
yeah,
for
good
joining
fun.
us tonight.
It's a pleasure.
Report from Tiger Mountain
He's
is
returning soon. Morgan's have been away, I think.
It's on the Unshackled channel, though. It is going to be launching on podcasts soon and
Yes.
also on its own dedicated website.
Indeed. So stand up for more reports and also the ones we've already recorded. So go check them out at the Unshackled. And obviously the Melbourne Underground Film Festival's coming up. You've got about another 6 weeks to get your entries in, muff.com.au. And you can enter through Film February. So get stuck into it.
And we're also working on getting the Uncockables episode on podcast form
Ripper.
as well. And we're also going to be launching an Uncockables dedicated website as well, which is going to be a central hub for sort of all the partners that we have in this project.
Yeah, good.
All right,
The
so
alt media empire is growing.
it is.
That's it.
All right, so thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you next Thursday.
The Uncockables.